Divine greetings, entities, energies, lovelies, bodies of light, the seekers and sojourners, seekers of truth, the sojourners of truth, the 144 chosen of the chosen few. You know who you are, my third degree chosen ones. I greet you all in the love that lights the truth from my heart to yours. I am Celestial Earth in the divine energy essence of it all, reporting to you live from nowhere other than 5D, the fifth dimension, the place to be. Stand up if you here with me. Those who are just now entering, welcome, welcome. Come on in, take a look around, feel the vibrations, feel the high frequencies, feel your elementals, everything that's just imploding from the inside out, right? As we attune to these new vibrations and we synchronize with these new times, true times in the true timeline. As usual, I am here bringing you the news to infuse, if you so choose to infuse with this light. What light am I talking about? The light on this light grid. The light grid activation that's always happening, whether you're aware of it or not. And as usual, I'm always saying, reminding us lately, you can choose not to, but remember, when you clash with the grid, you will be fried on the grid. So with that said, let me go ahead and just say happy solar eclipse, new moon in Libra. It is Libra season. It was already Libra season, especially if those of you who have the 5D calendars, you will see we are in the month of Ma'at as we go by the houses. The houses tell what month we're in. But yes, happy Libra season. I am a Libra sun sign. And so is my daughter and mom. I'm in between the birthdays right now. So shout out, happy birthday the 1st of October and to my mom, and October 3rd to my daughter, my first baby, right, who just turned or is turning the big 15. So beyond those shout outs and the happy solar eclipse, we were in this ecliptic window. We were also getting the equinox energy. There's a lot of energy that we're feeling, as well as a comment that is going to be coming up behind this as well, but I'm not going to really go into the comment. I want to talk about I had to take notes. There's so much happening with this new moon. There are things that I have been speaking on with this new moon, specifically the theme being social dynamics. So of course I'm talking about a social. With all of this, it is to know that it is a social dynamic shift into interdependence, not independence, interdependence. And I want to kind of shine some light on that, sharing what I have with you all about the new moon, with what it means for us, what it's highlighting. And I'm going to speak about it a little bit differently. I may have to do a part 2 on it, because as I was writing the notes for it, I started to get a download specifically about why we haven't seen a lunar eclipse during this entire ecliptic season, 18 months, why we haven't seen a lunar eclipse in Aries, in the North Node Aries through this. So you do the math, go back and check it. Look at, since we came into these nodes in July of last year, the nodes, North Node Aries, South Node Libra, that was as of July 2023, and they are there until January of 2025. So this is the last call, as I always say, the last call for alcohol. This is the last ecliptic window for this ecliptic season, with this theme of the social dynamics, with the nodes being where they are, right? Please know that the eclipses are aligned with the nodes in that type of way. If I may be using the word wrong, but I see it as being aligned with the nodes. Wherever the nodes are is where you are going to see the eclipse, right? So this is the last one with the node, South Node in Libra, North Node in Aries. This is the last ecliptic window. So this is a last call Last call for a social change. Last call for the social change on aisle 6. Clean up on aisle 6, right? Into our soul sovereignty is where we're headed. That's the north node. So south node is where we're coming from. North node is where we're headed, right? And this has a lot. I'm going to be speaking about the nodes a lot with this. Speaking about what's happening with Mercury. We have a grand water trine with Saturn, Mars, and Venus. And there's some sextiles up in there. So I'm going to speak a little bit about what those sextiles are saying to us with Pluto sextile Neptune and Neptune sextile Uranus. But I want to get into this part of it first. So what we're speaking about, what we're looking at, let's look at the degrees, right? Let's look at a little bit of numerology as I speak on this social dynamic. That is a theme of these 18 months. And a lot of us are feeling it and seeing it. All type of relationships are being affected because that's a social dynamic. How we interrelate, how we relate and interrelate with one another is our social dynamics. This is social studies, right? Basically, this is human development, social studies, type of social science is what we've all been inundated with over the past couple of months, specifically 6 months ago. And what's happening now is really reflective of the total solar eclipse that we had 6 months ago that just gave such a loud reverberation that we're still feeling the effects of even now. And what's happening now, we're going to feel the effects of for the next couple of months to come. So let's go right into the 10 degrees. So as a new moon solar eclipse in Libra is at 10 degrees and the code is 11. So the code of this day was also 11. If you count up all the numbers, we are in a universal month of 9. Yes, you count up the year is 8 plus the 1 in 10 is 9. So it's a universal month of 9. So you add the other 2 for the day and you have 11. So we have a code 11. The Libra, the eclipses, meaning the sun and the moon, for those who don't know, let me go ahead and mention that as well. For those who don't know, the new moon is when there is an alignment with the sun and the moon. So the sun and the moon are both in alignment, versus where the full moon is when they are in opposition. And that's why I always see it as a transcend dance, like they're always dancing, the cosmic dance between the sun and the moon. They come apart, they come back together, they come apart and they come back together. So now is a point where they pretty much come back together in an alignment. They kiss and make up, and basically the moon representing the inner world comes into alignment, bringing into alignment the sun with the sun, which represents our outer world, everything that shows up in the outer world. So it's kind of like bringing our inner world to meet up in the outer world. So whatever has happened before, right, with the lunar eclipse, that the full moon lunar eclipse that we had 2 weeks prior, where we were in opposition and we were forced to really look at some things, what's going on in our inner world, and versus what's going on in our outer world. And so now we are bringing that together, that from the opposition to bringing it into a harmony in Libra, because the last one was in Virgo, I believe. Yep, sun was in Virgo and the moon was in Pisces. And now where we are with the new moon during this eclipse, and an eclipse also is like moon energy on 10. Know that as well. Note to self, either eclipse. And so now where we come into alignment, whatever we were in opposition with, we are now bringing that from whatever was going on in the inner world, bringing that inner world into harmony with the outer world. So that's what we're looking at with this new moon. So what are we harmonizing about? And perfect space to be in, because Libra is about balancing, having that harmony. We're in the Ma'at, right? The month of Ma'at, we're in the sign of Ma'at, which is about balancing, finding justice, finding harmony within the justice that creates the balance. And that harmony is knowing, be true to thine own self, be true. putting your heart on the scale, weighing your heart against a feather, being true to yourself, operating with integrity, going into the heart. This is very much heart chakra energy. It's like the energetic center that you want to utilize is the heart chakra to amplify the balance that is needed. You want to go in with your heart. You want to put your heart on the scale, being honest with yourself about what's going on and weigh it against that feather. Did you operate with integrity? Especially as we're being asked to look at our south node in Libra. This is just not any ordinary new moon in Libra. This is new moon eclipse with the south node in Libra. Right? So our south node being in Libra is where we're coming from, how we have been showing up in past relationships, all of that. Right? So looking back at before I go back into the number, just got a little reminder, if you made it this far, please remember to like, subscribe, share, comment if you dare. If you don't know what to say, leave some emojis, as some of you have been doing. Thank you for the hearts, the blessings, all the emojis, because that's how we pay it forward, so that we can get the energetic algorithms to push the message to get to where it needs to get to whoever it's for. In their remote places, that are looking for their soul tribes, looking for, oh, okay, this is what I needed to hear, like that, that type of connection. So let's pay it forward. Hit that subscribe button, notification button, whatever it is you need to hit. And I thank all of you who have been sharing your thoughts, your feelings, your words, your vibrations, your energy. Thank you for being a part of the community. And having patience with me when I sometimes don't get back to the comments. I do like to get to all of them. I have gotten back to a few, and I'm still making my rounds, so thank you. Still making my rounds to even coming around to the email. There you go, to the email. So if you haven't seen a response from me in email, no worries, no wahala. I am going to get back to you. I'm not ignoring. I had to go through a whole lot of other things, and working through. So, any other announcement? Yes, after this, I'm going to go on a bit of a hiatus, unless Spirit specifically gives me a message to give. I'm always obedient to Spirit. If I don't specifically get a tug and say, go and speak about this, I'm kind of going to be back in with myself, really going within and reviewing the order that needs to take place, and preparing for where it is I'm about to go next. So I share that with you. Also, anything else, if anything else comes up, I'll tag it in on the end. So let's get back into the Libra moon, because this is exciting. This is some interesting. Listen, y'all gotta listen around for this. You gotta stick around for this, especially if you know you've been facing some social hiccups, right? The social dynamic that has really been shifting gears for a lot of us, right? Depending on where these placements show up in your house, that determines what's being shifted in regards to the social dynamics, right? So 10 is new beginnings. The sun and the moon is at 10 is a new beginning. 11 is also a new beginning. We're seeing a lot of ones, 1 and 0, or 1 and 1, right? And so this 11 shows that there's a numerology theme of the new beginnings, where the 10 is an overall new beginning, right? As a fresh step or a new step. It is the one right after 9. 9 is spiritual completion. So it's like that fresh step out of the womb, the 0, out of the womb of receptivity from spiritual completion, which is 9 months in the womb until it's time to come out. So after that spiritual completion and you give birth, it is time for you to take the first step. It is time for a new beginning. So what feelings, what emotions have you given birth to, right? I'm not just talking about women. This is not a gender topic. I'm talking about ideas. I'm talking to both male and female alike. What have you given birth to? Where has there been a spiritual completion, right? And while what with this happening with the 10, also knowing that while the 11 itself is the harmony of two beginnings, a 1 and a 1. So 1, which is always representing the new beginning, when you see the 1 with the 0, it's like saying the 1 out of the womb, the 1, the first step that we take overall when we come out of receptivity, right? And that's in that regard. With the 11, we're seeing a 1 and a 1, and that usually represents the harmony of two new beginnings, a new beginning and a new beginning. And that's why when we see that 11:11, we're seeing that harmony of new beginnings, right? The harmony of new beginnings twice. We're seeing it repeated, and that is really highlighting our spiritual enlightenment. That's why when we see 11:11, it amplifies and it highlights this is a spiritual enlightenment, or this is a aha for something spiritual that is happening with us. But it is that harmony of two new beginnings, which Mercury emphasizes in communication at 11 degrees of Libra. So at the time of this new moon, Mercury is also at 11 degrees, right, of Libra. And this is calling attention to new definitions of social dynamics under true perspectives of what is valued in the soul self. New communication. This is new definitions of social dynamics. And I want us to look at that because, it's, like I said, the social dynamics are changing and have been changing. And it's asking us for us to be responsible and accountable for where it counts for us in these changes. So with Mercury being about communication, and it's in conjunction with the new moon that is aligned with the sun, bringing out everything from the inner world, all of these harmonies of the inner world into the outer world. It's also asking us to pay attention to our communication when we're socializing, and when it comes to social dynamics and us healing from unhealed things. It's usually has to do with communication. It's usually some type of misunderstanding or some type of miscommunication, some type of disregard, disrespect. In either way, it's communication usually gone wrong, right? And so we want to, in harmonizing it and finding our balance in the social dynamic of it, it is for us to look back at that communication. And this is why I said the stone, the azurite stone, is really good for this communication, for utilizing what you know in your psychic abilities and bringing it into the heart, so that you can be grounded in understanding and having an understanding of where others may be coming from. Not only that, having an understanding of yourself, that with these new definitions of social dynamics, under true perspectives, you now see what is of value, what is valued in your soul self. What is it that you truly value? And this is something that has been being echoed from way back, right? From when the nodes were in, the North Node was in Taurus, which I had been speaking of. The echo that was happening from then is how changing our perspectives and how we value things, how we see things. With that North Node in Taurus, we were to be elevated with material things and how we value them, changing our perspectives, right? Not changing the things, but changing our perspective of these things is the more evolved state of this. And understanding that our abundance is in the earth, so we're not in any lack. Ultimately, it was to change our mind state of lack, because that's how we determine our values. So whatever it is that we see, that if we feel we have lack in something, then all of a sudden we're chasing this high value. We tend to put a high value on what seems to be in lack, right? But when you see something in abundance, we tend to not really staple a high value on it, because we feel like, oh, it's everywhere. But that's the good thing. And this is how we're supposed to look at everything, so we don't overprice things, and we don't let the external world tell us what value is, because it's based on what we don't have. If you get what I'm saying, they can value things for us and put a price sticker on it based on what we feel that we don't have. So based on our lack, and our mind state of lack. So it is called for us to change our perspective. So true perspective in value, the true perspectives in value is what was being echoed from that time. And I spoke of this during our last eclipse 6 months ago, and I said I can hear the echoes of perspectives, because whatever was happening in our social dynamics, we were being asked to, it's like you could hear the echo, check your perspectives, go back and look at it. So true perspectives in value were being echoed from the last North Node in Taurus, which was last year's lunar eclipse during our first North Node portal or window in Aries. So let me say that again, right? These were being echoed from our last North Node, which was in Taurus, right? And this was last year's lunar eclipse during our first North Node portal in Aries, meaning our portals had changed it. Not our portals, our nodes had already changed. Did I say changed it? Had changed in July. However, after that, when we had an ecliptic window, after the nodes had changed, and usually the eclipses are aligned with where the nodes are aligned. However, our full moon was in Taurus still. Our new moon, just like now we had one in Pisces. At this time last year, our full moon lunar eclipse was in Taurus, and our new moon was in Libra. So I even said it back then that we were getting, at that time last year, I said we were getting an extended opportunity to look at these perspectives, because the eclipse amplifies what we are supposed to be looking at. So we were getting an extension to again look at this fullness. It was a full moon. Look at the culmination of this, and look at what perspectives need to be changed, because it was very necessary for us to move forward in our northward trajectory with our North Node, which was at that point in Aries, even though we weren't getting a lunar eclipse in Aries. Our nodes were very much still there, right? So, and when you think about it, the energies are so let me finish saying this part, and I'm going to speak about how intelligent the energies are with this point that I'm making right here. So knowing that this is what happened last year, right? And now true spirituality is being called on the horizon for the next North Node that is coming up in Pisces, which was this year's recent lunar eclipse during our last North Node portal window in Aries, which is this one happening now. This is our last window, with the nodes being in Aries and Libra. However, again, even with this one, the North Node was not the North Node. The eclipse was not an eclipse in Aries where our North Node is, right? So you can see the North Node is not being used in that manner. It's still there, but it's the other houses that are being used and amplified. The eclipse is this time amplified Pisces, which is where we're going. That's where our North Node is going. So last year it was amplifying where we were, our last node was coming from, right? I know this may sound confusing. It is a North Node, but it was where we were coming from with our previous North Node. So it kind of sounds like from the past, but it's the North Node, right? It's not the South Node. And this one, it's giving us a preview to where our North Node is going to be in Pisces. While all this time, the past 18 months, our North Node has been in Aries. So during the entire 18-month ecliptic season of Aries and Libra, not one lunar eclipse was held in Aries. I want us to think about that, because that brings home what I'm about to say to you. Not one lunar eclipse was held in Aries. Society has already suffered enough of the ego's misappropriations without adding to it energetically. What do I mean by that? This was when I started to get the download. As I'm looking at it and I'm seeing Okay, we haven't had not one in the 18 months in Aries. And why is that? Let's really think about that, because the eclipse amplifies something, right? And so if you think about it, I want to say think about it like when you add, it's an ingredient that we only needed a little bit. You know how people say add just a dash of salt. I kind of was getting that feeling about Aries. We just needed a dash of Aries. We just needed to be existing in Aries. The North Node in Aries that is pulling us into the higher evolved aspect of Aries. And so we didn't need the eclipse to amplify any type of Aryan type energy, because of how society is already susceptible to the misappropriations. And I'm speaking spiritual people too. Although we are spiritual, a lot of spiritual people are still tuned still to the misappropriations and susceptible to them. So if they get too much of that amplified Aries energy, it can tip them over more into the selfish state. And we are coming out of that. Remember, in Aries, we also have Chiron. So there is Chiron that is also helping to get rid of the debris of the collective imprint of all the misappropriations from the age of the ram, the patriarchal rule, all of that is coming up from us right now. And so to add too much to it, even right now, as we are working on changing perspectives and in the social dynamics, we're being asked to look into the past and see how we show up without falling into selfishness, right? If we are looking at, for example, if we look into the past and let's say you were a people pleaser and you're looking at how you have showed up in social dynamics that no longer serve you, it no longer serves your highest good to be a people pleaser to the point where you overly compromise yourself. So you're not in your authenticity, right? And so you need to recognize that, see that, and then be able to do something different once you recognize it, that, oh, this no longer serves me. I can't continue to be a people pleaser in this way. Let's say you recognize that if there's too much Aries energy amplified on that, then you can go about it in a selfish way where you say, you know what, I'm tired of people, I'm cutting people off, and I'm never going to do this for anybody again. And it could turn you to being cold towards people in order to gain your power, right? And we don't want to become empowered by stepping on people. That defeats the purpose of harmonizing this social dynamic. We're supposed to go about it in a way where we fine-tune ourselves by finding out how we have showed up misappropriatedly, how we have to hold ourselves accountable and responsible for how we have enabled others to cross boundaries with us, how we have not stood in our own authenticity, in our authentic authority of our soul self, our spiritual self, and we haven't held our esteem on our spiritual heights, right? So therefore others have been able to have their way, or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe some of us have been very selfish already and we don't consider others already. And that, of course, is the more narcissistic approach. So I say all that to say this. There's a reason. I don't know how many of you are seeing this, but when I saw this, I was like, the universe is so intelligent. And I know we know this. We know this. However, I'm seeing it in a different light, and I'm just one of those ways where I'm just so thankful for the energies in the universe and how it's so delicate with us, because it knows us. The universe knows that we're not ready for the amplification of the intensities of an eclipse in Aries type of full moon, because it is going to be too much salt. It's, instead of a dash of salt, you would have dumped a whole bottle of salt in the mix. And it's too risky. It's a slippery slope, because so many of us are already susceptible to going about things in a selfish type of way. We won't mean to be selfish, but we may feel like we have to be selfish in order to be empowered, in order to gain our personal power, within these social dynamics. And that's not it. That's not what the energies want. It wants us to really look at how we show up. When you look at how you hold yourself accountable in a dynamic, then you don't put the blame all the way on the outside and on the externals, but you go within and you make the necessary changes within, right? And that's how we come to be respectful, respecting ourselves, respecting our journey, knowing, oh, okay, it's my fault. I did this. So then I have the power to change how I show up. That's the I that we want to look at. But if it amplifies the Aries energy prematurely without us having this understanding, we may take it the wrong way. And so as intelligent as this universe is, it did not give it to us. You do the math. Look and see. This entire 18 months, we've not had not one lunar full moon eclipse in Aries. And that is perfectly orchestrated and ordained for us to have this experience in the most healthy way that we can, so that we can move into our soul sovereignty in a rightful way and not being tempted to move in a more selfish tone, right? We want to keep that selfish tone down, and we're already highly susceptible, especially with collective, the collective imprint from the patriarchal rule that hasn't been fully flushed out of the collective system, right? Although most of us have caught it and we're working on it, very, 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 very few people, spiritually speaking, very, very few spiritual people can handle the amplified energy and intensities of a full moon lunar eclipse in Aries without going in to some of the selfish modes, or without going about it in the wrong way, right? So the energies are very intelligent. I really wanted to point that out, because when I saw that, I was like, how blessed are we? We got to understand the truth of how the cosmos work with us and how it understands where we are. The energies that we put out there is how it is known in the energetic field. We not ready. That's how I was saying. I was like, they not ready. They're not cut out for this yet, right? They got some more growing to do. So we gonna temper that. We gonna keep it low and give just a pinch of that Aries energy. But the Aries energy, the North Node, is still very much there, and in the way that it's asking us, as I said, to go within, find out how we show up within, so we can correct how we show up without in our social dynamics, and have the healthier conversations that we need to have, right? Operating in integrity. So with that, let me move it right along. All right. So also there is a grand water trine, right, with Saturn, Mars, and Venus that raises our emotions in these areas, with keeping a checkpoint and reminding us in a favorable way of what our Venus and Mars was checked with, right, while in conjunction in Pisces. So couple months ago, while they were all in Pisces, we had a stellium going through those months. If you remember, when the Mars and Venus was going through March, it was going through Pisces, right? And everyone had to pass the checkpoint of Saturn, and so they got a little check on who they were, and the Lord of Karma that brings in the house of karma, and it brings responsibilities to Venus and Mars. Mars came out a better man. Venus came out a better woman as she went about her business, right? So right now, what I'm seeing with this grand trine, this grand water trine, is that it's keeping a checkpoint, right? With all three of them being in water signs. That's what that trine is. Saturn in Pisces, Mars in Cancer, and Venus is in Scorpio, which, you know, Venus in Scorpio, anything that has to do with relationships, finances, and things like that is in Scorpio, where death to rebirth type of transformation. So she is in that arena, right? And that may be, for me, that's a bit of a parallel. So check your natal chart. It's paralleled my natal chart. So Mars is in Cancer, which means it's in a water sign, which means it's not as kicking, right? It's not as fiery kicking because it's a fire planet, and it's in its rules a fire house of Aries. Element naturally is fire, but it is inside of a water planet. So it's being tempered right now, which can be a good thing too. Good and bad. The way I see it is bad if it's something that you need to do, and you may feel restricted a little bit in your passion and taking initiative to do something. But good in the sense that it kind of tempers areas where you may be overly passionate about something, and you may possibly go about it in a different way. And so all of these being trined with Saturn, who is, you know, the checkpoint, the Lord of Karma, saying, hey, look at this. But it's very favorable because it's a trine with all of them. So it's favorable in a way of what our Venus and Mars is. It's like reminding us of what the checkpoint was when they were there, when they were in conjunction and passing through. So it's like a friendly reminder, like, hey, remember this? As you go about what you're doing, remember this. It's reminding them of when they got their big boy draws on, or their big girl draws on, and is ready to step forward. So it's favorable in that way, right? Mars being squared. Now this is the squares. Mars being squared with South Node in Libra highlights that as tension builds up, it indicates what is intolerable that no longer serves us, right? That's the tension. Tension is like, ooh, but it's good. I always love the squares because it brings up what we need to look at. It prevents you from being too comfortable in a place where we need to get some stuff done. So this tension builds up, and it indicates what is now intolerable, and it no longer serves us, right? But with Mars, a fire sign in the water, as I said earlier, it may be difficult for some to take initiative to change what is intolerable, with the water damping the fire that fuels the passion. So there may be something there in this tension that you feel like, you know what, this is just intolerable. But it may also be difficult to take that initiative because of that warrior that is kind of trapped in a cage, right? It's not allowed to really blow steam and get all passionate the way it wants to do. It has to go about it in a certain way. But it's cool because that trine with Saturn is reminding it of its maturity, of its big boy draws. So it's like, hey, remember, you got this. All you got to do is, you know, kind of tap back into that reminder checkpoint with Saturn. That's how I'm seeing how you could help it out. If you're feeling any way, go back to looking at what was happening when Mars was at that point. Like, how were you feeling? How did you handle things then? You know, and just allow that to kind of guide you. So Pluto also squaring, this is another square. Pluto also squaring the nodes continue to bring the death to rebirth revelations that helps to see the transformation needed to restore our personal power into our soul sovereignty. So this Pluto, remember, we're in that window. We're also still in that window where Pluto is in Capricorn at 29 degrees until November. So while we're in that window, this is also squaring the nodes, and it's continuing to bring those revelations that tells us, it allows us to see the transformations that we need, the things that are needed to take place in order to restore our personal power. Not what we want to do, but what must needs be done. So we got to utilize that square, because again, remember, the square brings tension. It's not comfortable, right? I'm saying this like it's comfortable, but it's not. So let me reiterate, let me remind us, right? It is bringing us that death to rebirth revelation that is helping with the transformations that we need, but it doesn't feel pretty. Let me remind us that it's what we need. And so it's bringing that, oh my God, what is this? I got to look at this again. It's saying, yes, look at it again. I'm playing this back for you. Where whatever was going on with you when Pluto was at 29 degrees before it went into Aquarius. Look at what was happening then. It is asking you to look back at that. Look at what was happening around January before it went forward into Aquarius. What was happening around March of last year before it went forward. It is asking you to look at it again. Continue to look at those revelations until you transform what you need to transform to restore your personal power. That is where you're going to find your personal power, especially within these social dynamics, right? And it's going to take us into our soul sovereignty. Ultimately is what the North Node in Aries is holding it down for us. Like, please get your sovereignty, your soul sovereignty, right? With Chiron conjunct with the North Node, the unhealed wounds are being pulled up and out, to embrace the evolved aspects of Aries and move forward towards the North Node trajectory of the North Node, which is in Aries, of where the North Node wants to take us. So remember that this is with Chiron. This whole time, Chiron has been in Aries before the North Node even switched there, right? So the North Node coming there and being in conjunction with there, it's saying something a little bit more, right? It's showing that the unhealed wounds are being pulled up and pulled out, like weeding, like when we're talking about weeding in the garden, weeding them up, pulling them out, and they're being, you know, pulled out to embrace the evolved aspects of Aries. So as we do what we're doing in the South Node, as we are getting rid of those shadows, because that's what it's about. The more we do that, the more it catapults us forward into the North Node evolved aspect. So with this conjunction in Chiron, it's allowing us to pull up any unhealed wounds with that, in regards to that, and allow us to move forward in that northward trajectory, right? So these wounds are coming up, and these wounds are coming up even through our experiences, the dynamics, to highlight what this is. So with that, let me see if there's any more. I know, yeah, just a little bit more. I know this one, usually this one came with so much information I didn't expect. So this one is a little bit longer. With Aries, this is probably the last part of it. With Aries being North Node and Libra being South, it is for Mars in Cancer. And this is like, if you can look at, what I'm saying now, if you can picture a compass, north, south, east, west, right? And so with Aries being north and Libra being south, it's for Mars in Cancer, which is to the east, to take the initiative to bring what needs to be nurtured within. It's to take that initiative. See, that's how we got to utilize our Mars. Take that initiative of what needs to be nurtured. What in your communication needs to be nurtured? What is it in you that is going to help you in these social dynamics needs to be nurtured? If you need to stop being a people pleaser, nurture that. Nurture how you can set your boundaries, how you can put you first, right? If it's that you need to stop being so self-centered and only thinking about you, then nurture that. Nurture the part of you that needs to include others and rather than exclude others, right? Nurture that part of you that needs to practice inclusion. These are the things we can do with Mars and Cancer, right? Practice nurturing, right? Nurturing, since nurturing is what Cancer is about. Don't fight the nurturing. Take the initiative to nurture the things that we need to do. So yes, this is what we're doing at the east. So again, with Aries north, Libra south, Mars would be on the east side of that square, right? East side, right? So nurturing within, and express what Pluto in Capricorn is revealing to empower our soul without and into the external, right? So bring what needs to be nurtured within and express what Pluto in Capricorn is revealing to empower our soul without and into the external, going west, right? East means within, west means without, metaphysically speaking. So This is why I'm saying, if you look at it like a compass, you can see the square where from the east there's Mars that needs to bring in this nurturing, so that on the west what needs to be brought out is Pluto and Capricorn, where we can express what needs to be revealed, the revealing, to empower our soul. That's how we're going to empower ourselves, express the revelations that we're seeing. It's not enough to just see these things and hold on to it and not do anything about it. It's to express what is being revealed, and that is how we're going to empower ourselves and gain the respect and the momentum that we need for this social dynamic change, for us to enter into this interdependence with one another, independently, confident within ourselves, but wise enough to know that we are all here to share this space with each other interdependently, right? And last but not least, here's the sextiles really quickly. Also, there is still the sextile between Pluto and Neptune that keeps idealizing dreams from unrealistic realities, right? So that Pluto brings the reality aspect into Neptune's dreams, where it may tend to go off into illusions, idealizing things that are idealistic. So it's keeping those idealizing dreams from any unrealistic realities, right? It's helping with that if you allow it. And the sextile between Neptune and Uranus allows and promotes revolutionary change for any illusions, right? So that's a positive as well, because Uranus is about change, revolutionary change. And so again, with Neptune closing out its final cycle that it's made 12 houses around, right? This is a major shift at the 29 degrees analytical degrees. And so it's about illusions. It's in its home place of Pisces that expands the dreams and illusions. So we have to be very careful. So we need these realities. We need to be reminded of these realities by Pluto. And we need the revolutionary change that's going to help us to change any illusions that need to be bygones, right? So with that, that's what I have. That's what we have on this new moon eclipse in Libra that's bringing so much, and I wanted to make sure I share all of that with you. Yes, it was a lot, but it is all so worth it. These social dynamics are ready to move to the next level, so we have to understand each part of ourselves, how we're showing up, how we're showing in, out, and up, and letting go what needs to let go. Social dynamics. And this is how we enter into the new age, into the age of Aquarian, which is about collaboration. How are we going to enter into that age successfully when we have not honored, when we have not embraced our social complexities, when we have not removed the social complexities, right? So that south node, north node, and south node is helping us to remove. Always look at the south node as the tail. That's that picture with the snake that's eating the tail really depicts what's happening with the south node. The north node, it's to get rid of the shadows of our past, especially that has to do with the collective and how we show up. Most of the work that we're doing with this 18-month theme of north node and south node in Aries and Libra is a lot of it is being done in the south node. A lot of us rectifying what we need to rectify has to be done in the collective aspect and how we see that we show up, and we're to gain a certain type of social responsibility by having accountability for our part in it. And the more we do that, the better we do that, is the more we accomplish our soul unfolding goal that allows us to embrace our soul sovereignty in its true essence, in the high evolved aspects of Aries, that the north node in Aries wants us to embrace this individuality, but with maturity, with spiritual maturity, and not in terms of stepping on others to gain our right, or making people feel less than to gain our right. And I'm talking to spiritual people too, because we'll tend to get into our intelligence and our insights and look down on everyone else who is not there. And it's not for us to do that either. It's for us to hold the love frequency and the vibrations of love as we are stepping into that next level. So with that said, I'm going to close it out right there. I'm going to remind us, if you haven't already done so, please remember to like, subscribe, share, comment if you dare. And also remember the 5D calendars. Get them at a 5D corner near you. You can get them in this link or a previous video. If you haven't already done so, please remember to place your orders within the next week. You actually have a little bit more time. I said 2 days. I'm sending out a shipment this week, Friday. So if you want that ASAP, you have to get that in, or else I'm just sending out the previous orders. After that, I may do one more next week. So you have another time next week to place those orders. And I'll leave that there. With that said, let's remember to gain our social dynamics, to understand the shift of these social dynamics. We are gaining our interdependence with one another, and that is the goal as we step into our soul sovereignty. So please do so with love and respect of self and others, with all due respect to the Most High, divine, divinity over all. And with that, each one reach one, teach one. If you don't know where to start, start in your big, beautiful heart. Shine your light from the inside out, and be the candle that lights the next one, and the next one, and the next one. Peace, love, and light.